So the joke is, why is Spider-Man so good at comebacks? With great power comes great responsibility. We're good? All right. So, you guys are lucky if you're here, you get to see the slides. If you're watching on YouTube, sorry, you don't get slides. So let's get started really quick. A little bit of background about me. This is who I am. I'm Zodiac. If you've seen me on Slack or on comm somewhere, I put the picture because I'd rather be out riding my bike than stand in front of you guys, but I sadly have to play the adult game way too much in life. By the way, if you came to my 9 a.m. presentation, this is going to sound very familiar. I'm sorry, I am a broken record, and that's all you get. The next bit is why I like to ride my bike, because I'm a sucker for hot chocolate and donuts. Being in Provo, I feel morally compelled to point out that true ice cream is of the Aggie variety, and it has nothing to do with the BYU Creamery. If you complain, my argument back is to look at the stats. You look at dairy sciences programs, and out of the USU, the Aggie ice cream program has come Acel Farr from Farr's Ice Cream and the Snellgrove Ice Cream Shop. As far as I'm aware, BYU's number sits at a big fat 0. They have 0 successful ice cream ventures out of their program. So anyway, that's what I've got to back that stat up. Next, I do a lot of red teaming in my responsibilities now. So I do pen tests and auditing and things. Been on the SAINTCON committee for, I don't actually know, like 6 or 7 or 5 or 8 years or something. A long time. Earlier this year, helped found the DC 435 group, get that rolling. We're going to talk about local hacker and DEF CON groups and other things like that. So if you don't have one, then start one. It's not that hard. Put USU up there because I do work up at Utah State. My title is Systems Administrator. I am a recovering VMware and storage admin. I now mostly do information security, do less and less with the sysadmin side. Anyway, that's me mostly. I am also not artistically inclined. You'll see my slides and realize that my art ability is, like, this is the prettiest slide I've got all day. I'm also I am not by any means the most skilled or accomplished or practiced CTF person. I'm just the sucker that said I can present on that. This presentation, I really want it to be a discussion. I want it to be topics. There's a few things where I list out tools and ideas, and I know that I don't know all of them. I don't have all the answers. I don't have all the solutions. So please, please, please shout out, raise your hand, whatever, and say, you didn't put this up there, because I wrote these slides at like 3:30 this morning, and I am positive that I forgot a whole bunch of stuff. And I don't know a lot, and what little I do know, I forgot because I should have been sleeping. I'm also not the smartest person in the room, and I'm also not a really great presenter. So you take what you get. So let's get going and start talking a little bit about what is a capture the flag. When I Googled this, that picture in the background, apparently that is legitimately a WikiHow article on how to play capture the flag outside. And you do need to look like someone just kicked you in the back or something. I don't know what's going on with those kids. But capture the flag it's a pretty generic and vanilla term that gets applied to all kinds of things. People think of all different kinds of things. It's some kid playing video games. It's Matthew Broderick and wargames and war dialing and everything. And it's all this defense. It's planning the defense and getting everything going for that. No, it's I don't remember his name in the Italian Job. Seth Green, his character. But there's a whole bunch of things. But pretty much, capture the flag is a term that's used to apply to a whole bunch of different type of information security related competitions and events. These are some of the different examples and types of capture the flag events that people have. Jeopardy is kind of like the Hackers Challenge game we have here, where it's a board, just like a Jeopardy board, and there are columns and different sections of retro and potent ponables and different things like that within the columns. There is attack and defense. If you've ever done pros versus Joes at B-sides, or if you've did the red versus blue in past years here at SAINTCON, these are events are usually scored by your score goes up by keeping your services up, and your competitor scores go down by you taking their services down. So you're both attacking and defending. Sometimes there's some, a little bit later we talk about, some of them are more attack-based, some are more defense-based. I mentioned the SAINTCON labs. Those are attack-based. Downstairs they have the threat hunting village, or threat hunting event, threat hunting something. But threat hunting is more defensive based. There's some of them that are just one or the other. There are war games, which are like you defend or exploit a vulnerability to prevent access, or these are often ones you download and just do at your own time and at your own pace. There are simulated pen tests, which is just what it sounds like. It's kind of like the SAINTCON labs, but there are different things. Some of these are just badge challenges. Like if you've been to a conference and been a badge. Did anyone go to B-sides this year, 2019 B-sides? I don't see Professor Plum in here, but he did like the single greatest badge hacking badge I've ever seen at B-sides this year. I see your B-side shirt. Did you play the badge? Oh. These badges are more than just a badge. This one included. I haven't done the challenges here, so I can't speak for if this was how good the challenges on this one are, but I know that there are some badges that are fantastic. Like the B-sides badge this year taught you how to do buffer overflows and how to find canaries and bypass canary checks on buffer overflows and things like that. And that was just from a badge that they gave out at the conference. So some of the CTFs are badge-based. A lot of them are crypto-based. Some of them are certification-based. Like the OSCP certification is pretty much just a giant CTF challenge that they give you 24 hours to do this big, to compromise these systems and write a report about it. And then most CTFs are mix and match. They're a combination, some of this and some of that, and some of column A and some of column B. So next, let's talk a little bit about who should play CTFs. And I think this slide was supposed to have a picture, but then I went to sleep. So it doesn't. So for who should play CTFs, let's talk a little bit. Oh, it's slow animation. It does have stuff. So everybody should play CTF. So everyone in here should take time to play it. And no, seriously, I really mean it. Everybody should play a CTF. That's your boss, that's your wife, that's your kids, that's everybody. The whole point is to educate and learn. And wouldn't it be better if all of these people knew a little bit more about what a CTF was? So let's talk about why should all these people be involved in CTFs? These are some of the different things as I was reading about this and as I've talked to people and thought about it. These are some of what you can get out of CTFs. Getting started in cybersecurity is a very common thing. Tons and tons of people use CTF to get their start, to get their foot in the door, to start the learning process. Everyone says go to college and get a degree, and I think that opens a lot of doors for you, but honestly, they aren't going to teach you anything about your day job. And if you're not doing CTFs to learn about your day job, then you're not going to do very good at your day job day one when you start. So you might as well start learning these real-world skills sooner rather than later. Professional development. I told you I was a systems administrator. I did VMware and storage administration. I did Linux administration before that, and I wanted to do more in the security realm. And I needed to develop those skills so that I had appeal and value to my employer in that role. And so I played with CTFs, and I did things like that to develop those skills. To learn, CTFs literally are learning. If you're playing, you're probably learning. To get a job, whether it's a better job or your first job, there are tons and tons of CTFs that are out there that companies use them as a recruiting tool. Companies use them as a tool to weed out the candidates they do and don't want to hire. And there are competitions that happen like that in Utah several times a year. I know Lucid puts them on. I've heard of like 3 in the last since the summer that these different companies do to recruit and weed out applicants. I put to get married, that's up there because as I was listening to a podcast about this, does anybody know who Plaid Parliament Pwning? Is that PPP? Anybody know who they are? So one of the guys who started PPP, he actually met his wife on PPP and they got married because they were on the same CTF team together. If you don't know who PPP are, Carnegie Mellon has a CTF team. They're the people behind Pico CTF, if you've ever played that. But they are also the people who have won the DEF CON CTF like 5 times, 6 times, something like that. They pretty much, right now, according to the rankings, they're the second best team in the world, but they're pretty much historically and traditionally the best CTF team in the world. But yeah, one of the guys who started that got married, met his wife on the team and got married to her. So, you know, it can go anywhere. You can meet friends, you can get married, you can do all kinds of stuff with the CTF. Let's just take a second. Is anybody in here, how many people got their start in cybersecurity with the CTF? How many of you have done professional development through CTFs? How many of you have learned a little bit through a CTF? I mean, this should be everybody who's done one, I hope. Anybody in here found a better job through CTF? As I was preparing this presentation, I was talking to people, and I had at least 3 people tell me stories about how they started the game to play and have fun, and then after playing for a little bit, somebody approached them and they got a different thing, and it led to much different career path, and they have gotten jobs. There are people at this conference that are here and have their job because of CTFs. Everyone in here, how many people have met friends and met new people through CTFs? Is there anyone who's gotten married through a CTF in this room? All right, I didn't really expect that one to be there, but you never know. So to get started in CTFs, the first thing you need to do is you need to find a CTF. You need to find something to participate in and get going with it. And there are literally hundreds of these that you can go and do. I definitely don't have all of them. This is one of those slides where I'm hoping for feedback and comments. But really, the low-hanging fruit for you is you're here at SAINTCON. Pull up the Hackers Challenge board and start working on those. The Uber board, it gets really hard really fast, but it's not a race. You don't have to be the best. You just have to play it, and you have to try it. So try the challenges you can. If you can't get them, then don't give up. Go downstairs. There's a whole area. All the couches downstairs on the first floor is for you to sit down and talk to people around you and get help and figure these out and learn. If you want to do more war game things, you've got VulnHub, you've got On the Wire, or Over the Wire, you've got Hack This Site, you've got a whole bunch of things like this. You have, I mentioned Neverland CTF and Pico CTF. Pico CTF is online and running all the time. At any point in time, you can just go to the Pico CTF website and play their CTF. Neverland has events that they take with them and go to different places. Like I said, they're set up downstairs right now. That's a really good one if you're unsure, if you haven't done this before and you need a little bit more help, you need a little bit more guidance and direction. Neverland is built for first-time CTFers, and it's awesome that they're here. Yeah, that's later in my slides, but yeah, that's perfect. That just shows you all of the upcoming CTFs, and it shows you the rankings of what teams are scoring the best and doing the best. It's an awesome site, ctftime.org. Oh, WeChow. I don't think that one's in my slide deck, but yes, I've been there. WeChow.net's also a site that has some of this stuff. Anyone else want to throw something out there? There are literally, if you just Google for CTF, there are literally hundreds of sites that pop up, and go to them and play with them and see what you can find about them. Wait for it. Okay. I guess I can see it over here kind of. So the next thing is pace yourself. I talked a little bit about how there are different, CTFs come in all different varieties. They also come in all different skill sets. Part of it is you need to acknowledge your skill set a little bit and have a little bit of an honest conversation. CTFs are about challenging yourselves and learning more and getting to the next level. But at the same time, if you jump right in and try to go off the deep end, you're going to give up and walk away and hate them and think they're stupid. I mentioned Neverland is a great beginner one. It's set up for that. But to give you an idea of where you can really go with this and how crazy they get, for the DEF CON 2017 CTF, they literally wrote their own processor. Like, so you guys all know what little endian and big endian are, right? I guess you may not. The way your computer reads bits is it either reads it from the right or it reads it from the left, and one's little endian and one's big endian. Well, for DEF CON 2017, they decided that was too easy, so they made middle endian, where it starts in the middle and goes out to the edges. Did anyone do any of the pre-con challenges this year? You remember how you had to use GDB to figure out pre-con 2? Was it pre-con 2? You had to use the debugger to go in and figure out the binary. Yeah, they decided that was too easy, so they purposely broke that by writing their own computer architecture. So before you could do the challenge, you had to write GDB. Then you could work on the challenge after that. CTFs go so far down the rabbit hole, it's insane. So part of it is acknowledge your skill set and don't say, tomorrow I'm going to go do the DEF CON CTF, because you're not. There are people who are very, very deep down the rabbit hole, and so start easy. Be successful. Start where you can. Go do the Neverland CTF. Do the Pico CTF. Download some Vulnhut images. Do things that you can complete and be accomplished so that you don't get discouraged and just frustrated and hate it. If you want to learn about it, the DEF CON 2017 CTF, Clemency is the name of the architecture they made, but they had to make emulators for KVM so that they ran virtual computers off of this processor architecture. They full on, from a competition standpoint, it's mind-blowing to me that they were successful in creating this architecture and everything that went with it. But then from a competitor standpoint, I can't imagine what it was like to show up and realize that all of your tools were totally useless and you had to write them all from scratch before you could even start competing. Anyway, that was the Clemency story is really cool. If you want to hear about that, you can research about it a little bit. The next thing with CTFs is don't do it alone. Find a friend. Talk to the guy next to you. If you are working on a Hacker's Challenge, right now at SAINTCON, there are hundreds of people working on it. There are people working on the exact same challenge you are. Don't be afraid to walk up to them and say, hey, let's talk about this. I'm going to pick on my son. I have a 15-year-old boy that came to the con this year, and I had to laugh at him yesterday because you guys all know SJ? He's on the committee for SAINTCON. Anyway, Seth was there, and Seth walked up, and we were at the community ops table, our ops platform down there. And Seth walks in, and I hear him walk up to somebody and say, hey, I don't know you. I'm Seth. And I laughed because I had that exact discussion with my son 2 hours before, saying, what you need to do is walk up to them and say, hi, I'm Noah. What's your name? And if you're not doing this, you're not doing it right. One of the things is the networking aspect, the meeting other people, the developing friendships, developing relationships, because nobody has all these skills. There's nobody right now that can sit down and get everything on the Hackers Challenge board without any Googling or any help or anything else. So rather than reinvent the wheel on your own, find somebody who does know that stuff. Meet up with people. Be friends with them. Get to know them. And so just remember the phrase is, hi, I don't know you. I'm Seth. With that, join a team or join a group or join a crowd of people doing this. If you're joining a team, if you want to competitively compete, if you want to be competitive with CTFs, if you want to challenge people and move forward, then you need to really be on a team and really train like a team. You think of sports teams and how they meet for 3 hours a day, every day, and they practice and they go through and they do things so that it becomes natural to them. They figure out what each person in the team brings. They learn the strengths and weaknesses. They leverage that. They find people who are different from each other. Football teams aren't all defensive linemen. Football or basketball teams aren't all centers. Soccer teams aren't all goalies. You find different people with different skill sets that have something to come and bring to there. There are some positions where you need 2 or 3 people in that position. There are some positions where you only need 1. So as a part of this, find people that are different from you and work with them and use them to help you with this process and strengthen the team. Find what you like and specialize. If you really find that you're drawn to the reverse engineering aspect, then do that. If you find that you're really interested in the cryptography, do that. Whatever you like, do that. Just go down that rabbit hole. Become the expert in that area. And even if you're not doing competitive CTFs, these things still work, because if you come here, I know that, I think of the people that I've done CTFs with and helped with SAINTCON Hackers Challenge before, I can tell you who, I see a crypto challenge, I know, okay, I need to go talk to this person. I see reverse engineering, I need to go talk to this. And you get to know these people, and they know you as you build these relationships. The next thing is, don't stop. I don't know if anyone remembers Forrest Gump from the 90s, where he talks about how, for no particular reason, I just kept on going. Don't stop. When the competition's over, keep working on it. Keep learning about it. One of the examples was, again, that PPP was talking about one of the competitions they did in Russia. And one of the challenges for this competition, they had to do some discrete logarithmic calculations. And they wrote some code to do this, to do the challenge and do the logarithmic calculations. And they found their code ran, and it took about 10 hours to run. It finished about 15 minutes after the competition ended, so they got no points for any of those challenges. Then he talked about how he went back and decided he wanted to figure out what was really going on with that. And he found some optimization places that he had missed in writing the code, and went down from 10 hours to, it was 3 hours, not 10 hours. I got my numbers mixed. So it took 3 hours to run it the first time, and then he found some optimizations, and it went from 3 hours down to 10 minutes. But what's awesome is he now has these optimizations. Next time he hits that challenge, he doesn't have to write the 10-hour solution anymore. He can write he doesn't have to write the 3-hour solution anymore. He can write the 10-minute solution. Don't just complete the CTF for the points, complete it for the understanding. If you just go, it would be pretty easy to go hang out downstairs, and honestly, I have been the guy that did this, so I'm not pointing fingers. There's no condemnation in this at all. But to hang out and shoulder surf and listen to people talk and hear the flags and just type the flags in and get the points on the board. We've all done it. It's the easy win. But at the same time, you don't learn crap. You don't learn anything. And the whole point of this is to learn and to grow. So maybe not during the competition, but maybe earmark and say, you know what, I got the right answer, but I don't really know how that worked. I'm going to go back to that after the competition. After Hackers Challenge is closed, I'm going to go back and see what I can do to figure out what really happened in that. Don't just play for points, play for understanding. Next is the walkthroughs. So this is double-sided. There's 2 sides of walkthroughs. The first side of the walkthrough is you walk through to gain, you use other walkthroughs that already exist. If you're really getting started, pick one of the popular CTFs, like the Pico CTF or something, and if you Google it, you'll find 2 kinds of hits. You'll find the hits that are how to get into the competition and what to do with the competition, and the second kind of hit you'll find is walkthroughs, people telling you literally what to type and what happens, and they explain what each step does and what happens in that part of the process. So go through and do these walkthroughs. If you're unsure, if you're just starting, if you're new and you don't have a lot of confidence, then don't beat yourself up for not knowing it. Do the walkthroughs to learn. But then as you get more skill and you get more confidence, turn around and contribute back to the community and write your own walkthroughs. Every year, Zevlag asks for walkthroughs for the Hackers Challenge game. He asks for people to write and contribute, this is what I did to solve that challenge, to pay it forward and teach the next group how they can solve these problems and what they can do. I know that we all work in IT, and walkthrough sounds an awful lot like documentation, and documentation's kind of like an evil, terrible thing that no one ever does or wants to do. But really, you do learn through writing the walkthroughs and creating this documentation. The next thing is there are real-world kickbacks with doing CTFs. They're not just for you; they're for everybody. Personal kickbacks we've talked about a little bit. You get personal development, you get career opportunities, you get friendships, you get relationships, you get all these things to benefit you personally. Your employer. What employer doesn't want more highly skilled employees? Doesn't want employees that understand more of what's going on? Even if it's not exactly your area, I personally would not complain if someone knew a little bit more outside of their area about these types of things. Organizational. Think about SAINTCON and how much the Hackers Challenge adds to the conference. From an organizational perspective, there are benefits to us for for CTFs and for participating in these. Industry things. There was an FFmpeg vulnerability found not that long ago through CTF. They were using FFmpeg in one of their CTFs, and somebody solved the challenge in a way they didn't understand. And it turns out FFmpeg had a remote code execution in it that somebody was leveraging, and they used that to win the CTF. And it's awesome because not only did they win in a creative way, but also they got to responsibly disclose this bug and patch software that we all use. Sometimes you're going to get stuck. We talked about choosing the right level and choosing what's good for you. But make sure that the challenges you're doing are appropriate for you and your group that you're competing with. But sometimes you're going to get stuck and you're going to get in over your head. And that's okay. That's part of what this is, and that's when you learn the most. At least that's when I learn the most, is when I get stuck. So join a group. And like I mentioned before, the Hackers Lounge is downstairs where all the couches are in the expo space. The whole point of this is to help people and get to know each other. But again, the secret code word is, hi, I'm Seth, I don't know you. You need to talk to these people. Don't just sit there and see someone else and wonder, is he working on the same thing as me? Look over and be like, hey, have you solved reverse engineering 200? Hey, have you solved this one? And talk to them and get to know them and see where they're at so you can work together. There are groups at elementary schools, high schools, colleges. I mentioned DC 435 that I'm in. There's DC 208. There's 801 Labs. There's loads of these groups all over. If there's not, then start one. It really was, Pope and I sat and talked at B-Sides a year ago and he said, hey, I'm moving to Logan. Do you guys have any sort of DEF CON or hacker groups that meet? And I said, no. He said, let's do that. Let's get together. Let's get a group going. And now we meet once a month, and we have about 35 people that show up, and we talk about this kind of stuff every month in and month out. So find these groups. Find Slack. If you're here at SAINTCON and stuck on the Hackers Challenge, Zevlag loves to help people. The reason he does this is because he loves to teach people. He wants to be there and help you. So reach out to him. If you're afraid and you don't know anybody, use me as your excuse. Come talk to me, and I'll talk to anybody. And you want to find somebody, I'll help you find somebody to help you. I probably can't help you because, like I said, I'm not the most skilled at these. But I can probably point you in the right direction for someone that can help you. But talk to people. And that one of the downsides is we try to come to these conferences and hide and not talk to anybody. But really, in my mind, half the point is the relationships with the people, half the reason to come to the con. Happens to everyone. Even the big boys get stuck. Don't feel bad. Don't get down on yourself just because you're getting stuck on a challenge. It doesn't mean you're bad. It doesn't mean you're not smart. It just means that the game master wrote a good challenge. Next, I want to talk a little bit about giving back. And so with giving back, as you get better at these and as you want to do more, it's great to give back and to share some of what you've learned with the community to build it and make it better for people behind. And I have honestly learned more building things than I have participating in them, but part of that's because I've spent more time building them. Anyway, but things you can do is every CTF needs challenges. Zevlag every year asks for more challenges for the Hackers Challenge game. You can create challenges for the Hackers Challenge game and participate in the Hackers Challenge game. It does not exclude you from participating. He has a couple of rules about how you can do it, but you can contribute puzzles and still participate. Every year I'm looking for content for the labs. If you want to make environments for people to attack and compromise, then let's do it. Let's get this going. Organize a game. I mentioned the Neverland CTF guys. That was literally a group of high school kids. They went to a conference, learned about a CTF, and had a lot of fun doing it and thought, this is awesome, we should do it more. And they couldn't find anything, so they built their own. And now they take it they did it at DEF CON at Roots Asylum. They had a whole room barricade off for them at DEF CON for the kids section to talk about, or to teach these little kids how to do CTFs. And this was just a bunch of, they're in college now, they're out of high school, but these are just, young guys and girls that decided they wanted more of this, and they made it happen. Create a group or team. I mentioned how easy it is to make a DEF CON group. And if you don't want to make a DEF CON group, then make a SAINTCON group. Make a left hallway on third floor group. I don't care. Like, make whatever you want, but find people to work with these things on you. Help your neighbor. If you hear somebody struggling, you hear a group that's fighting through something that you've already solved. This is not a zero-sum game. I mean, there are 3 people that are, if you look at at least the way I look at the board, and one time I was a guy that was competing in the top spots, but pretty much I'm a bottom feeder. And so if I give someone else the knowledge to solve a puzzle, it doesn't hurt me in any way. I'm not taking away my chances of winning by someone else doing it, because I already had no chance of winning. But that was, we talked about making walkthroughs. That's another way you can give back. You can go through later and write these up for other people to come behind, so that people who don't understand this can then follow in your footsteps and do the same kinds of things. This next bit here, other resources. This is where I want more feedback. These are some of the things that I've done. Apparently I have a typo that I didn't pay attention to. These are some of the places that I watch for things and some of the places I get information about these. CTF time that was mentioned, Over the Wire, Reddit, the security CTF subreddit is actually pretty good. Some of the groups I put in there, 801 Labs, DC435, sorry DC208, I didn't know your website and I was too tired to Google. I don't know if that's really a thing, but that's kind of how I feel. My typo is that's actually supposed to say Darknet Diaries. If you are a guy or a girl who likes podcasts, I highly recommend, that's Jack Resider's podcast, and it's fantastic. He basically interviews people who do CTFs. He interviews people who have been involved in large data breaches and compromises, both on the good and bad side of those breaches and compromises. But he's a great storyteller. He interviews great people, and it's fun things. What else do you guys do? What do you guys do to find out and learn about CTFs and other types of things? All right. Then we'll go here, because that's all I've got. And turns out it was good that we had some AV problems at the beginning, because I'm still finishing early. Anyone have any questions, comments, thoughts, or anything? All right, then that's all I've got. Thanks for coming, everybody. I hope you learned at least something today.